Yeah, the idea of trying to, and I think the fees, how the fees spread out, how are those allocated? And really, when you look at the statute, it talks about fees shall be fees shall be for community services support that relates to the direct impact of eligible projects on public services. And so, when looking at the statute, one of the basis was for this change. It may be a point where boards are kind of being forgotten about, saying, hey, we provide services and this project will affect us. And here's how it affects us, but we're not getting compensation for it. Just as when you look at some agreements, if you've done it before, and Mike can talk about this, there's that community service fees. A lot of other districts are affected too. You know, taxing when you look at EMS, hospitals, the law enforcement. Those are kind of the forgotten ones many times when agreement goes like this, where it doesn't go through normal taxing, and how that gets broken up. So that's when I look at the statute, that's really what added the support signing off on it, my belief of trying to make sure they're not forgotten in some of those payments. I can see that aspect happening. And so really not a lot changed. I'm going to be honest, it's not for some agreements in the statute didn't change a lot besides adding it a signatory. Just as in, gosh, for community service fees, we have to sign up on those too. You know, the same people have to kind of sign up on the agreements. There is no nothing guidance regarding negotiations or that aspect of it. The phrasing still requires, and when you look at the statute itself, it talks about still the county submitting it, the county doing this, the county doing that. But then in one of the provisions, hold the statute, I just for everyone wants to look it up, RS 285 C as in cat .609. It really talks about that point, you know, the port signing off on it, but still the county having to do a lot of the labor, that aspect. So that's when we mentioned I didn't see a lot of change. That's the thing. Trying to think what else and that's where I don't compare it to the enterprise zone that way, statutorily, that's not similar. It just, when you look back through it, added the language of affected ports. That is a statutory change I've got to add in there, talking about it, signing off.
What does it mean by affected ports?
Oh, actually, I'll tell you the exact definition. There's probably a simpler one, but the exact definition is
in the statute.
Yeah. It's a very fun definition, actually. And the fact that it says affected port means a port district located east of the westernmost dam on the Columbia River. Very nuanced definition. And then a port district that owns land on which part of a proposed eligible property will be located. So
That the port owns?
no, that's subsection B. Yep. Is that or there are two parts. And that the port itself is also Morrow County, Port of Morrow is a county-wide port. So it includes that aspect, even though certain parts out there, it is a county-wide port aspect. I think when the determination of the fee aspect, it's consideration of utilities are provided out there, not utilities, but services. I think we'll consider some of those things, but it is a county-wide port. So in statute, they are required, the port is a signed off signatory port. The only other thing I wanted to mention here too, in looking at statute is it talks about, each of the boards have to approve it. So if there was a group that said, hey, we're going to negotiate this together, to try to, that was the idea. If for some reason that was the plan, saying it out there. And there's an agreement by this subgroup. It has no bearing unless both separate governing bodies approve it. I'll be mentioning this came up back many years back when I had reviewed enterprise zones. The idea was that, hey, well, enterprise zone agreed to it. That's done. It's like, no, the separate bodies have to. And so if that's just a cautionary tale, I think I know when Chair Sykes was mentioning trying to make it easy for businesses. As an applicant wants to come in, make sure they know the roadmap. That's always a cautionary tale I will give. It's hard to guarantee roadmap because each separately have to. You can have an agreement in place for negotiations, but the statute is clear that it has to be approved by the bodies separately still.
By resolution.
Yeah, resolution, public hearing aspect. And so if you have even the board commission, or the Port of Morrow has two commissioners, if there's a team that's negotiating it, and it gets back, it passes theirs, oh, here it is, goes before the board, then if it's three or more vote against it, then it doesn't work. And so that's always been a tough one. A little bit for businesses, I imagine. That's a little bit of the background I have, but I know I missed a lot, Mike, but there's a question.
No, it's just, we haven't had that be an issue yet on the enterprise zone board, which is nice. I mean, I don't think we have, I don't remember it. So that's, I'm hoping we can, if we work together, or we have a subgroup that we will be able to move forward.
Personal guidance on the back pass for the enterprise zone, changed the fact that I believe at least for the county, we have two voting members, or at least somehow it's set up where electors are in place and that has at least two or more have to agree for a enterprise zone agreement. That has allowed someone more of assurances by saying, okay, well, if two electeds have approved it here, then they should probably be approving it at the board commissioner level. That was kind of the workaround. It was not that way for enterprise pres two, I think. It's one. So that's kind of been the changes, trying to work on that. But yeah, of course, it could always change where negotiation happens and then a week later, pushback is heard and the governing body, or at least they change their mind on it. Mike, background on that.
Well, yeah, and I'm gonna go back to, the original SIP statutes, and I forget the House bill that included ports originally a couple of years ago. So if a city had jurisdiction over, negotiating an SIP contract with a certain company, it was in statute that in order for that to come to fruition, the county would also have to sign off. I don't believe in my research that there has been a city that had negotiated an SIP contract negotiated an SIP contract and then sent it to the county for their approval and the county did not approve it. I think it's always been that way. So this new thing, adding the port, is very similar to, existing with counties and cities when the city is in the driver's seat.
Mike, are you saying then that a city initiates a SIP, negotiates a SIP, brings it to the county, the port also has to,
Yes.
at this point, new legislation,
Yep.
any SIP in the county?
Yes.
Okay,
But prior to that, like I said, if a city negotiated something, the county had to sign off.
right.
So,
Sure.
and the county, and like, I'll pick on Umatilla County, where the city of Umatilla and city of Hermiston have negotiated SIP. County wasn't involved at all with those negotiations, at all.
So they affected county taxes or just?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah, and the counties did have to sign off on it, and Umatilla County did at least make a real big fuss about at least one in the city of Umatilla.
Yes,
And I think Hermiston and the county government are at significant odds
okay.
because of this.
Things like that. Almost backward. I mean, the county needs to be involved.
well, I don't disagree with
I
that.
don't know.
And each county's different too. Morrow County's kind of unique in a way because of Morrow County's permanent levy rate. And so basically the county, of every tax dollar collected, the county gets about 25%, maybe a little less of that to support, all the county functions, which includes my office, that
The
value.
most important one.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
second most important.
well, it identifies, values, taxes, collects and distributes to all districts. And, amongst all the other things that, services that counties provide. And like Umatilla Morrow County has a $4 rate, Umatilla County is like less than $2 or right at $2, I think, so, but they have, they have 2 or 3 times the geographical area and 10 times the population, to provide services to. And so they give up less of a percentage than Morrow County does, but Morrow County provides a lot more services or has the ability to do that if they were funded, And SIPs aren't the only exemptions that the county has no control over. There's a lot of other housing exemptions that are specifically for cities. I don't know if you read the Boardman paper about the middle income loan housing thing that the city of Boardman's going to do. That's an exemption the county has no control over.
But it affects the county.
It affects, absolutely. Every dollar, tax dollar that's exempted, 25, Morrow County loses out on 25% of it.
And then all of the other taxing districts also.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions at all?
Okay, so, I guess. Well, just throw it open for discussion now.
Well, were we gonna hear from Business Oregon?
Oh, yeah, Business Oregon.
Okay.
Alex. Alex is on there. I think you've only been on the job a couple of weeks, haven't you, right, Alex? So we don't wanna give you too hard a time.
That's right. That's right. But I'm glad to be here. And thank you for inviting me to join your meeting. My name is Alex Albertin. I'm the new business incentives coordinator for Business Oregon, where I oversee our incentives programs, in particular the enterprise zone, the SIP, and a few others like the rural renewable energy and the long-term enterprise zones. But I'm here. I'm available. My email works. My phone works, and I'm happy to be open and available to assist you in any questions as you guys proceed. I'm also here with my colleague Ryan, of course, who you all know well.
Did you want to kick anything in, Ryan, or say anything?
No, sir. I'm here for moral support. Alex is the expert.
All right. Okay, so what's you guys' pleasure? You wanna just start talking? Do we have some?
I have a
It's just a discussion from that, wide open discussion from here on out.
the formal question, what starts a SIP agreement? Does someone contact Biz or do they contact?
I can answer that, and I gave you this presentation back, and I'm happy, and I'm happy, if you wanna, I can resend the email to you. If you wanna put it up on the screen.
Sure, I've got it. Is it the? Oh, no, this is.
I sent it to Brandy back in December, and I'll resend it.
As I say, if you know where it is right away, that'd be easy.
We all dutifully listen to everything you say, Mike.
Huh?
I heard it all, Mike. I was just in the audience.
And I won't go through the whole thing, I'll
Yeah.
just the basic steps, okay. So, hopefully I sent it to the right Brandy. I've been known not to do that. It says I do.
Maybe it would have been faster if I would have. I still don't have
It's a
it.
long way from here.
I know. Hmm.
I also have the flow chart too, if you need me to put on the screen.
Ah,
It looks like
well,
you're
my
good.
phone got it. There we go.
And I'll just have you open it and skip to slide 3.
Okay, hold on.
Actually, slide 4, I guess. Wait a minute. Nope. Well, wait a minute. Okay, slide, page 9. Okay, so. Business firm consults with Business Oregon and. City, county, port, with confidentiality about a proposed project, I got this straight out of the statutes.
So they're contacted at the same time, basically, or?
Can be, yes, it's not necessarily in any order, I mean, that's kind of what the statute says, but. Usually, and maybe Ryan or Alex can correct me if I'm wrong, I think usually they'll. talk with the county first, say, hey, we're thinking about coming and we're, let me maybe asking for options, and then we'll say, well, and then they're aware of Business Oregon, and, they'll reach out to Business Oregon and consult with them, and then, if they decide, the company decides that they want to make application for an SIP, then they make application directly to Business Oregon, which is different than Enterprise Zone, where they make application to the Enterprise Zone. And then, after they make application, they can actually start construction if they want. And that has happened, doesn't always happen. A lot of times with our wind projects, they will be making, application long before they start construction, even before they even have their FSEC permit. They're probably in the middle of that process. Cause a lot of time the developers and Jerry, you know how it works.
Right.
They're looking, developers are looking, to put all the pieces together to sell the project to someone, so. Anyway, they make application, they notify us that they've made application to Business Oregon, and then, negotiations can start. And, I've been in negotiations that, can go on for weeks, months. And I've been in negotiations that take one meeting. So it just depends, especially if it's a new type of property. I'll pick on Wheat Ridge. Wind wasn't necessarily new, but solar was. And battery storage was absolutely new, not just to Morrow County, but Oregon in general. So we did a lot of legwork trying to figure out the details on what this battery component of the solar is going to be. And those negotiations took a lot longer than just a straight up, wind farm. So then once there's been a agreement on the agreement's been agreed upon, then we the county or the city at the time, now we take the port, they'll ratify that resolution that we enter into this SIP agreement. Then also in the middle of this, there has to be a public hearing to notify the taxing districts that the county's entering into an agreement with an SIP agreement. Then after the agreement gets ratified, let's say by resolution by the governing bodies, then a second public hearing is held with the taxing districts to figure out the distribution of the community service fee. And then once that is all done and all of those districts resolve to agree to the distribution, then we send this great big packet of stuff down to Business Oregon, where at one of their Business Oregon Commission meetings, it gets ratified by.
So that's their role in.
That is their role.
Final. Or
How'd I do, Ryan and Alex? Is that pretty much the gist of it? At least that's how we've done the 5 or 6 that I've been involved with.
Mike, I've got a question. When it gets to community service fee, you kind of touched on this with our negotiations. Is there's a certain percentage of the districts that have to agree, or?
Yes, 75% of the districts.
All right, that's what I thought.
And you've been around a lot of those, and I think it's almost always been a unanimous vote. There's been motions made that didn't go anywhere, but once somebody made a motion.
75% of their taxing authority.
Yes, 75% of the
Yes,
taxing authority. Yeah, excuse me. Thank you for that, but,
So by that, you mean that if they have a simple low tax base,
They don't have as much
Lesser
say,
vote.
yeah.
right,
so the
right.
county really can come in and say,
Right, right, it's based
But
on,
we'd have a 25%.
Yeah.
you have
So you'd have to
25%,
get along.
and,
that's because
but if it's a little cemetery district and there's bigger players, right?
Well, and the port
Or
is,
Or the port.
Port.
Or the port,
okay.
yeah, you know,
I understand.
the county receives,
Yeah.
15-16 million dollars in taxes each year, and the port last year
And-
received 350,000.
with this new, none of that would change. Yeah, cause the port doesn't have, yeah.
Mike, do you want to throw in there is usually the baseline is the percentage that would, I mean, like you just said, the lower, it's the percentage that would be taxed if it was just a straight tax, but it doesn't have to be that, right? I
No,
mean,
no.
negotiate could start anywhere,
Mhm.
but that's usually what we've used as a baseline, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
More, you wanna stay on that?
No,
No?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
So an application can be made to Business Oregon. They can start construction then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then go through all the other steps you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
is that, and then, but if it fail, I mean,
Yes, it
Right.
could fail. And usually when they'll start construction, it'll be groundwork. It won't necessarily be buildings quite yet. I mean, most businesses are savvy enough that, you know, they're not gonna get complete and then, because they know the chances that, hey, you already built it, why are we giving you exemption, right?
And Alex had something you wanted to chime in?
Yeah, just to clarify that, and the process is correct. And so that first application is what we call like a pre-application.
Yeah.
It's not their actual application. Their actual application isn't submitted until after the agreement's been signed with the sponsors. So of course, like we're not just approving things without your buy-in and agreement to what's happening. And so it's not like it's just coming to us and we're stamping it. We look to you to see that this is going to progress, that there's momentum behind it. That's when the pre-application allows them to start construction. And then we go through the full process before the final application is submitted.
And there is an application fee along with that, correct? That goes straight to Business Oregon. The county doesn't retain, or a city doesn't retain any of that, correct?
Not in the SIP situation, no.
Where like enterprise zone, the enterprise zone does get to keep the application fee.
Right.
Well, it was an interesting presentation you gave, Mike, of the differences between the two and why a company might want to go with a SIP versus an enterprise zone or vice versa. I got a lot out of that. I appreciated that. And in my opinion, the example you gave of a recent PRES agreement where the difference was almost negligible, what, 7.5 million or something like that. But 2.5 million left the county.
Yeah.
And went to.
2.7.
What's
I
that?
think it was 2.7
2.7
million dollars.
million, because of the enterprise zone requirement that funds go to the schools.
Yeah.
So depending, as long as the company can stand a SIP agreement versus the enterprise zone agreement, it would seem like SIP might be something that's beneficial to this county.
it's when they make the application is whether they're applying for a CREZ or a SIP or are they just applying for
No, they're
a specific program
they're specific programs.
at that time?
Right. I mean, you know,
But it's hard for us to influence that.
well, it could be very hard because,
On their part, yeah.
and, in my example is, you have a company come in here, let's say it's manufacturing or processing or something where they're gonna have a lot of employees and they're gonna be able to meet the employee requirements.
Right.
But they might be cash strapped and they don't want that taxable component. Enterprise zone, all the new property is 100% exempt. And if an SIP, depending on the level of investment, at least $40 million is going to be taxable. Up to $150 million is going to be taxable.
Sure.
So, and then on the flip side of that, you may have like a wind project or something.
Right.
That's not probably a very good one, but some other kind of company come in that doesn't have a lot of employees that may struggle or not be able to make their employee requirements for an enterprise zone exemption.
Right.
So if they want an exemption, they would apply for an SIP because that might work for them. There are no employment requirements on an SIP other than a first source hiring agreement.
Well, and also the CREZ, I mean, one big wind farm would blow all the.
Yeah.
all the land out
Right,
of the
right, right.
water
That,
that,
a
you know.
wind farm isn't a very good example, but
Yeah.
some other kind of industry that
Because
doesn't
we're
take a lot
limited
of
by the
employees,
amount.
yeah.
Right.
Square miles we have in our
Yeah.
CREZ.
And Alex has something else again.
Yeah,
Oh, you're muted, Alex.
did you have something else, Alex?
Yeah, I think he's trying to unmute this, thing.
Oh, okay.
Did you mute him, Brandy?
I did not.
Can you we might be able to unmute them though.
Oh, now he's frozen. I think he's gone.
Oh,
He's-
it's frozen.
He's been in and
I was
out.
gonna say he's joined probably 3 or 4 times. I think he's struggling.
Okay.
Maybe he just lost the video.
Maybe that will help.
I think he'll rejoin with his phone here in a moment.
Yeah, you press that, click the asset unmute and it gives you the options.
Now see if he's joining again.
Now asking you.
There he goes.
Oh,
All right, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my computer today. I just wanted to point out beyond the project finance component in terms of cash flow, another big difference between SIP and enterprise zones is the period in which the build out may occur. SIP is much more forgiving to longer construction periods. And so that may be a strong incentive depending on the nature of the build out itself. Just
So what do you mean by that? Because like a commercial facility under construction exemption is only for 2 years.
That's right. But the SIP program initiates upon construction.
Yeah.
So it's property that's there can initiate earlier. And so the timeline starts sooner for property. It doesn't require the in-service point in the same way.
Yeah, but most agreements do have language in there that say that the exemption will start, you know, the tax year following the calendar year that the, you know, that they start operating.
Sure.
Yeah, so they start operating, yeah, right. So like, just not.
Now, I have seen other counties, and actually I just reviewed,
That's why.
SIP in Clatsop County this morning that didn't, it was different than that. It
Take 5 years.
It stated the process like Alex said, and it actually, the way I understood it, it shortened up the, exemption period 1 year from 15 to 14 because of that. So, I don't know. I wasn't part of those negotiations. I just was reviewing the.
Right.
Are the negotiations at SIP a little more flexible than? Or,
Well, their negotiations are negotiations.
Right.
okay,
Yeah, like you've got a SIP with PGE, the county does. It's got a very odd number each year that's being paid out, right? I mean, it was made sense to everybody involved, but it's,
Right.
but it has a dollar amount that jumped around because of whatever. PGE had a reason for it, right?
Yes,
Right,
yes. And
so,
yeah, some, just like some of the enterprise zone agreements, there's a prescribed schedule of payments instead
Right.
of some calculation I have to make every year.
right,
And so that's with PGE and then also with Orchard Wind is that way as
right,
well.
right. It made sense to everybody then.
Well, weren't there also specific payouts in some of the SIP agreements to things like the STEM program and things like that? I mean,
Yes,
you
that
could
was
make-
unique. That was unique to Wheat Ridge.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah.
there was some school payments made early on in both the SIP, with, Willow Creek Energy, the Dry Island School District, and
Yep.
then, there was some with the Echo Project as well early on.
And those are for the life of the agreement, right?
No, they were like in the first 3 or 4 years,
Oh,
4 or
okay.
5 years. But they were pretty substantial payments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early in conversations that I had with people about this topic, the question was brought up, or the point was brought up, well, is there any need or desire to make the two programs? Is there a little similar locally? In other words, if we like the employment requirement to some small amount on the CREZ agreements, do we want to make it a part of any SIP agreements that happen in Morrow County? I'm just tossing this out. I'm not advocating for one or the other, but is that even possible? Or is that desirable? Or is that?
Well, I believe anything's possible if we can come to an agreement.
Okay.
The hard part's the oversight of it.
Well, absolutely,
Right,
because,
that's all from the county.
yes, and
Okay.
so by default,
We've got a pretty great compliance officer, but that might be,
yes, I am the compliance officer because I am the only one in the state that has authority to grant or deny the exemption.
Yeah.
Which
like
is the
I said,
same as the enterprise zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, just like, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating for that. I'm just starting to kind of begin to formulate some thoughts in my head about our next topic is going to be how do we move forward on this and work together? And so what are the expectations of the Port Commission versus the County Commission and, you know, those kinds of things as we work through this discussion today. So I just toss that out as a idea. So IGAs have been presented by each group. We'll just dive right in here. And I think each of the other groups might have not exactly all of them. But how do we start this conversation? Are we interested in having an intermediary group formed?
did we receive an IGA from you? I don't remember.
Twice.
We sent it in
October and in January.
She sent a red line version of the one that you sent us, and then she also sent a longer that was modeled off of the enterprise zone.
Okay, I will have to go back and look for it.
I don't think Gus and I have seen that.
I will forward it.
That'd be fair guess.
I think that would be fair. I think I would remember if I had.
The idea of having a joint group, good, bad, and different?
Oh, if we're gonna be serious about this, yes, I think a joint group would be important to have this real conversation. No. But.
What do you mean by that? Just a joint group, just
So,
talk
if-
about the IGA or a joint group to negotiate?
I think to talk about an IGA and, you know, to get a framework that we could. If we could get a general framework here that we agreed to, and then have a smaller work group, and then have that work group bring it back to each board for potential approval, I think that would be a good route to pursue. But what, I haven't seen what the port's proposed, so what are the things that you guys are looking for specifically in an IGA? Can you just tell me?
The AI summarized version, right?
Yeah, tell me the AI summarized version, who wants to do it, step up.
I have the red line version right there. So.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to dive in and?
Well, I got just something real quick, maybe Justin could. Is there other legal vehicles or anything that could be used other than an IGA? Or is it that would accomplish something that spell out and
Thank you.
our method of going through this process?
And the idea is still just kind of a framework. I mean, it is still an agreement aspect on it, doesn't really do a lot, I think sometimes, but another legal aspect, I can't think of one because it's just more of a formal written, here's our policy.
Memorandum of understanding.
I mean, it's just, it
I don't
has the
know.
same
I'm just
force
asking.
at times. That's the
Yeah.
thing, honestly. It's because of the, unlike a normal simple like contract of sorts that says, here's the benefit, this is the strength of it right here. Based upon the idea that the separate governing bodies have to approve it separately, then that's where the value of the negotiations really doesn't have, the IGA doesn't have a huge strength besides a roadmap. So I guess you call it IGA, memorandum of understanding, it's a rope for how they might,
Has no teeth.
yeah, that same aspect, because at the end, the real teeth are the each boards. So that's where I don't think there's much of a legal aspect. It's a, yeah, it depends which path. Like I know, I'm not sure when the Umatilla City, I guess City of Umatilla met. I don't think there's an IG between the counties and the cities there, and so they just dealt with it in the meetings. Honestly, that's just how it was. You had one
Mhm.
negotiating body, then one would just negotiate and work it out in the public body aspect.
Yeah.
So then that's, and I maybe Mike, you dealt with them more, make sure, and maybe even, maybe, Alex, if he's still on, or might know. I haven't found an example yet of an IG like that. You know, a lot of times we copy things, right? We'll say, hey, this group did it between this port and this city, or this county and this city when these came up, how to handle these situations. I haven't seen an IGA example like that, so and I'll just defer, maybe if Alex is aware, right, or anybody else.
There's only
an
4
example.
counties this affects.
But even for, like, I'd be interested
Yeah.
to see, like, an example would be the,
Oh,
a city county one.
yeah.
Yeah, if we were talking about a comparable, you know, in other places where, the cities and the counties, hey, we negotiate this county, we'll let you be a part of negotiations. With us or something, so you'll sign off on it, and I just haven't seen an example like that, but maybe there is. To see, I think at times, again, it's just the public body aspect, there's one lead negotiator, and then it goes back to the other body, and then kind of work things out. Alex, can you tell us if you've seen anything like that from Business Oregon?
Not that I'm familiar with.
Yeah. So that's where I think when Mike and I were looking at this, the IG aspect of this process is just different. It is outside the norm. I know we're saying, well, the statute's new and you have to port that, that's, of course, not examples. When I looked at it, I said, well, if I compare it to a city county aspect, which has been in place, which is been part of the statute, not seeing an example like that, it's like, okay, I think other folks, maybe they don't do a lot of SIPs, or the fact that there seems to be one lead negotiator, and then from there, the other party signs off on it. With the understanding that, hey, this is primarily affecting, you know, if it's in the city, and the county's like, yeah, all right, you guys mind your business there.
Right, but in a city situation, I could go to the city and ask for my SIP. And we have a countywide port and a countywide government, so that's the difference, right? I mean, when you say that, Justin, I hear you. Somebody comes to Boardman inside their city boundaries and negotiate a SIP, and then the county's got to buy into it.
So does the port.
So does the port, right?
Yeah.
But my point now, right, I get it, but the point is now we have 2 countywide bodies instead of one countywide body that was agreeing with a local, city government, right?
I guess I look at it the same as the city and county though. That property is still taxed the same as a city. And so when we look at it, when I think about this microcosm of a city, that is still 2 bodies.
Yeah,
It is
but
the
you
same as a
say
50
that and
county.
you say that, and then I instantly think, well, it's inside the port. I mean, you know, and not, I don't mean port proper as in owned property of the port.
Yeah, but nowhere in the statute does it says the port trumps the county.
No, I understand.
Not
that.
at all.
I understand that
Your only
completely.
trump part
That's-
is not signing off on the agreement.
Right, and that's a bad,
And that
that's a
is-
bad position to be in. We all need to
Absolutely.
find a solution. That's my
Right.
point. But I don't think it's a fair thing to say this the same as the city. I don't quite buy that.
And I will say that we've run the enterprise zone program together for many, many years.
Yeah,
The same requirement was to go back to the governing board to get a resolution.
Yeah.
I know the port for many, many years has said the 2 people we put on that board to represent us are representing us.
Yep.
We've never thought, oh, well, we'll just deny it when it
Right.
comes to us.
Well, that's up to the elected body.
Yeah.
That's not, and if they choose not to, they can.
But-
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be partners and we are partners and we are friends.
right.
We don't need to sit and fight about what it looks like. We can negotiate the best agreement to continue to be doing the work that we do.
I would add that additional dimension that I don't really want to see CREZ and SIP pitted against each other.
Right.
And so there could be a group where we do get together and we have worked well in the past together. I suspect that we can continue to work well together if we have this intermediary body.
Well, let me throw something in because this has kind of come up before when I've talked to some people who talked to me on the CREZ. And I said, you're gonna run into the same people when you go, not the same, but, you know, when you go talk about the SIP. And please do not try to play us off against each other. We're too small, you know. However, the regular way it's been done is the applicant brings us an offer.
Yep.
So they could bring the CREZ an offer, or they could bring, it's up to them. You know, and so if you call that playing off, you know, you get, I mean, I told them, you know, when the guys from Rowan were there, I said, I can't tell you how to do your negotiations, I'm just suggesting. Don't go down that, you know. And so that was the way but they would bring either the CREZ or the SIP or a SIP agreement forward. That's
Yeah.
normal,
Yes,
unless you want to flip it and have us make the
Right.
original agreement.
and
And then they come back with a counter.
and it's happened in the past where company will contact me and ask me for advice on which program is better, and I send them to Business Oregon. They are the people
Right.
that can explain it from a business perspective.
Mhm.
I can only explain it from, you know, the county or you know, a taxing perspective. You know, that's my canned response, you know, go talk to Business Oregon.
Right. That makes sense.
So do we see a value in having a group that would come together or not? What's the county's position?
To form the IGA or to be the negotiator?
No, I'm sorry, to be the negotiating group.
I think so, yeah.
What is,
I mean, I would want some hard boundaries. I mean, I think there are some things that the port shouldn't be involved in, and I'm gonna be a stickler on that, and the county should hold its line. But I think there are certainly things the port should be involved in, and that's where I think we need to have that conversation. I mean, I think the easiest one to start with, port owned, yes, there we go, easy, port should be involved in that one, duh.
Oh, yeah, or if it's something that the port may be providing services to and getting a revenue from that.
Yeah, and I think that is what I would be interested is where are we going to draw the line? That's what I'd be interested from the county perspective. But
I don't know if thought I had is, I'll have a zone of influence. Is the Port of Morrow considered the zone of influence of the whole county? County is de facto because they are the foot of the whole county. But the port's not involved in the whole county, even though we're a countywide.
Or countywide.
So are there areas or places where the port would say, no, we're not involved in this project? I don't know. That's a thought I have.
I would think that would be a case by case basis.
Right.
And obviously the port, like the county, has to take care of the port as well and represent the port, the best interest of the port. So, they should be.
And clearly, at the end of the day, everybody's gonna have to sign off, right? I mean, that's the other thing. So we need to have a method to get to,
I guess that's what,
we still would have to vote and sign off, right?
unless we,
There's gonna be some way we
We're not-
advocate and don't sign off, because that's what he just said in the statute is that we're gonna have to at
Just
least
like in the
sign the
past.
agreement, right?
Is this the same as
Right,
it always has been? In the past, that way with cities and stuff too, it's been the same. And
right.
so it's usually, I would say, the primary, I'm sure, there's some, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of who leads the negotiation, right?
Is
Because
it-
that is still a group on that. And if there's the idea of a zone of influence, as term we create for enterprise zones,
Right.
then it would be the same idea of saying, okay, well, who's this group? This one, but again, we need to caution every person who's applying for enterprise zone or SIP. Say, yeah, this is our group doing it, but at the end of the day, there are two separate governing bodies, so we cannot make any guarantees about it. And so even though the county might be negotiating on a place in South County that receives generally no port services. The end of the day might be, yep, we negotiate, this is it, but there's 5 port commissioners and they have their say too. And if 3 decide, no, maybe I just don't want this project in South County for different reason, then that tax exemption part goes away. That sound about right, Mike, too?
Sounds.
and that's already in place. I mean, that's in play right now.
It is in place.
So, yeah, I just don't want this to look like a money grab by the port. I'll be honest. I'll just say it right out front.
Right.
That's not my intent. of entering, going into these discussions. I'm not looking to make money, a load of money for the port on SIP agreements. I'll be honest with you. I know we have to support the port, but we have our own projects and our own space down here and our own operations. And so I just want, that's where I stand. I'm not, can't speak for other port commissioners, but and then on the second point, area of influence, if we're gonna do something that resembles the enterprise zone, I don't want, I mean, I would like maybe if it's next to a municipality and it's similar to something we have at the airport, that's not terribly palatable, and they don't want it next to their city, I'd like them to be able to have a say. But I hope they would lobby the Morrow County Commissioners and the Port Commissioners, knowing that, hey, we have an objection to this project coming right next to our city. Can we please reconsider it?
There's already a public process
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that.
there we go. Okay, so
And
that's
so
perfect.
in my mind,
Yeah.
bringing them in again
No,
is
that's,
just gonna
Right.
be a
oh, yeah,
big
okay.
wreck.
Because I'm drawing the line also in my opinion, not, just my opinion. I don't want any disbursement of funds discussions having to do with affected areas. I just don't. That's my vote. So just saying that.
Cause there's already a public process for people to come to the county at their own budget time to request funds.
Well, and
Or even during any county commission meeting, you know, that's already in place. County commissioners have public meetings twice a month and people's voices can be heard.
And we, according to what I understand, 75% of the taxing districts, that's already built into a SIP agreement. They have to agree with the distribution of the money. So
Of
that-
just the community service fee,
of
Just
just
the
that.
community
Okay.
not of any additional monies that are
Right.
negotiated.
Okay.
And that's
Thank you.
not
That was-
that big of a number.
So it's $3 million times the CPI every year is the cap on the community service fee.
Yeah,
Like
thank you.
the enterprise zone agreement, so there's multiple fees that come after the community service fees. And then there is usually,
Well, it
Discussion.
just depends on the agreement, you know.
right?
You know, with Lamb Weston, it's a set payment and bond linkage. That's all there is.
Right.
Now with some of the Amazon agreements, there's public safety impact fees, student success fees, the $5 million infrastructure fee up front when they start construction, their additional amount plus their 25 million calculation thing, you know, so it takes a lot of work to calculate all that stuff as compared to an agreement that's just $900,000 a year. That's pretty easy to calculate.
But all of those fees are not mandated by state statute.
No.
Right.
Those are all fees that we've decided around this table to put the burden on the business for.
And the businesses agree,
Right.
so.
Right.
Keep looking for, just have ideas. I guess that a negotiating team can be built around the zones or whatever, but like to say the vote, I'm down to it, everybody has to vote.
Yeah.
But we could kind of designate in various situations if we negotiate, I guess. Maybe.
I would be interested in that discussion.
Yeah.
In your proposed IGA, I'm looking through this very quickly. The Strategic Investment Board, who makes up the Strategic Investment Board?
So I think that's the second one.
The second
with
one?
More pages.
Okay,
Again, I'm only a couple pages into it, and Lisa can correct me. It appears that that would be made up of basically how the enterprise zone boards are made up.
What I did, I simply took our current enterprise zone IGA.
And put
And tried to
strategic
adapt
investment
it.
board
Yeah.
into it.
Okay.
That's what I was
Yep.
gleaning from
But
my
does it,
very quick
Right.
partial review.
does it have affected areas though? And assigning votes from those affected areas?
No.
No, it's not. I didn't think it did. My reading didn't see that. So that's where there is a difference, Chuck.
Okay, I'm on page 3.
SIP agreements are just different than enterprise zone because they go start at Business Oregon and they take on a life of their own. Ahead of schedule
Well, yes, but,
versus an enterprise zone application.
right, but that's a small component of it. I mean, the real meat of the two are the same, we're negotiating. That's, yeah.
Right.
It seems like this has more open negotiations than the credit.
No, it's because there's a taxable component and also the community service fee. Like if you're trying to model something, what I mean by model is, figure out what taxes they would pay or estimate what taxes they would pay over the life of the exemption. You have a lot more columns than that because you have that taxable amount and you have that community service fee and you have your proposed additional amount where, enterprise zone, there isn't the community service fee that's statutory, there isn't the taxable amount that's statutory. All you're negotiating is, any additional payments. Now, whether that be broke up into a bunch of columns like some of the Amazons are, or if it's like Lamb Weston and it's two paragraphs. One is the payment schedule that's set out and the other one's the bonding language, It's, the negotiations are similar, there's just more components or can be more components to it, well, there are more components to SIP.
One thing I was trying to remember, Mike, I know with the seminars I was a part of before, we actually went to the business oriented committee approves it. Like they
Yes.
hear a presentation, it is like a third body. right,
Yes.
That approves it. And I don't remember if enterprise zones are the same way or
No.
not. So I mean, I guess my only caution would be if there are concerns statewide about tax abatement or something else. This is a statewide group that will consider a SIP agreement. And then there's concerns, there might be a basis not to approve it.
Yeah. Hey, so
Ryan or Alex, has the commission ever not approved an SIP agreement?
That's a quiz question I do not know the answer to, so I'd have to look that one up. I don't believe it's certainly not a common experience.
No, and
Usually,
I've attended, I believe, every commission meeting where one of our SIP agreements was in front of them. And, it's always been a good discussion. The commission has always asked a few questions and, had good dialogue, and it's very interesting. We had one here in Boardman. I can't remember which one. The commission met here in Boardman one time. But I don't remember which SIP it was. It might have been, it was either Wheat Ridge or Orchard, I believe.
So, Alex, could you speak to what would be red flags for you, just for our awareness? Is there something that you would say? What would it be you would look for? Why are you overseeing this?
well,
It's not necessarily Alex, it's the commission.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
So I believe the intention is statutory compliance is the primary review process to ensure that we're abiding by all those necessary rules. And that all the different stakeholders are at play. And I do think that there's instances in which, as you guys discussed, multiple jurisdictions that should be at the table, should be a part of the negotiations, potentially were not, and then it's a state level adjudication potentially if one of those jurisdictions did not feel like they were appropriately reflected in that final agreement. The board has the ability to overrule the entire negotiation process and dictate the community service fee distributions. And so there is some leeway there. But the intention is to statutory and ensure.
Only for the community service fee distribution, that's not for any other components of the agreement, correct?
That's correct, that's correct.
And generally also, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're on it too, is that generally is the threat or occurs if there is not an agreement by the district.
Yeah.
So the idea is, there's always the idea of like, oh gosh, how we get 75%, percentage of people agreeing on this, isn't one person say, no, I want all the pie. It's like, okay, that's fine, play that game, and then it just goes to the state, so they're gonna break it up.
So they're the final arbiter if there's a dispute on that one.
There's not a way to fold it up at that level.
Right.
It just is, and we've always, my position's always been, well, the easiest option, business worker doesn't wanna do that, the communities don't, but iron their shoes, the easiest option is to say, all right, what's the tax rate? All right, that's how we'll break it up. We're not gonna play games with it, we'll just go right
Right.
at
And
And just to
As
go
far
back quickly, philosophically, the difference between enterprise zone projects and SNP projects. Enterprise zones are local interest projects effectively. They affect the local economy. That was the original idea behind them, where SIP was a statewide, large-scale project that had state-level economy impacts. And that was kind of the philosophical difference. There's been a lot of like mission creep between them over the years with different changes in the statutes, extensions of periods and whatnot. But you kind of put it in your mind that like the state's looking after a state level economic issue versus a local level economic issue.
And I think we can thank Intel and Hillsborough and Washington County for some of this.
I'm curious, I'm gonna put my board commissioners on the spot. I'd like to hear their opinions, please. Joel?
Well, said mine, I think the port should be open to the idea of stepping back a little bit if we're not involved in any way in a project. But otherwise, I think it's worth having an intergovernmental agreement to work from, even though we have to go back to our bodies to get the final vote. But we need some way to get started. A group, and I don't. I'm not volunteering to be on another group.
Sure.
But anyway, I think that was an endeavor. And to have a small group get together and maybe hammer something out.
Okay, thanks, Joel. John?
Well, I haven't been involved in these too much, but I guess I don't know what our negotiating team would accomplish if we have to go back to our own boards if we don't have direction to our negotiating team on what each entity wants to do. So and I don't really understand what all we're going to be negotiating. Is it, seems like a lot of this are set, is it time, is it money, is it?
I think,
But everything seems to be kind of spelled out. So what are we negotiating?
Well, any additional payments.
Any addition beyond the statutory requirement.
Right.
And where would those payments go to, I guess?
They go to the county.
They go with
To the county.
Or whatever is negotiated.
or we could negotiate for it to go to STEM. As an example that has been used.
But this.
It's been done.
It's been done.
Disbursement of monies besides the governing bodies, in my mind, should not be part of an agreement.
Mhm.
I mean, except for the bond language, I believe in that, but, the biggest flaw with the STEM thing, great intent, I understand that, but we had everyone in the room except for the school. And how, and so it's in that agreement with Wheat Ridge that $1 million goes to the schools.
Yeah.
For STEM, but it didn't really come to fruition. I mean, the money goes to the schools, but, so maybe,
I think
maybe
that
something better
I
could have been done with.
I agree, but I think they actually are allocating dollars towards STEM, so I think they've taken it serious.
Well, no,
So-
and I'm not trying to
so
be critical of the school, I just.
I think they've spent the dollars, so,
That's a question I had already written down is what kind of reporting requirements does the county get back on that? And I thought it was STEAM money, STEM.
Yeah, whatever.
it's Steam, yeah. I don't know if you're getting any reporting, it's hard to know.
Well, yeah, I mean, and so disbursements like that should be made outside.
Right,
The agreement,
Right.
the agreement is for an exemption.
right,
And it should only, whatever comes of any non-statutory payment in lieu of tax monies is outside of the agreement.
So then we'd have another body like the enterprise zone that,
No, this would go
No.
to the county. Is that?
Well,
this is where I'm losing,
Yeah, I'm not
I'm not
following the
tracking
last one.
where the money is
Right.
going. If it's all going to the county, why are we involved?
well, it doesn't necessarily have to all go to the county.
The original-
So let's say a portion of it goes to the port. then the port decides where it goes. You have a public budgeting way of doing things, right? Just like the county, right? That's easy enough. We don't have to make it as complicated as the enterprise zone can be.
Sure.
We already have, each governing body already has a public budgeting process.
The original proposal that came in was approved by the Board of Commissioners. Broke it up between 80% to the county, 20% to the port. Am I remembering that correctly?
I think it was 90-10 maybe.
90-10, okay, I'm sorry, 90-10. So it can be, different than all going to the county.
Yeah.
That's why we're here in this room, somewhat.
Okay, I was just confused because it just seemed like everybody kept saying it's all going to the county, so.
Well, we're talking
good
about
answer.
Currently, a SIP is collected, the ones you have right now are going to the county, and
Right.
if there was some weird language like, steam or whatever, it is locked in, but.
Well, and like I mentioned before, there were some school payments on some of the expired.
Yeah, there's been school payments in Ione from one of the earlier wind projects to go into the school, because it was in the school district area, right? Outside of, because schools don't get a distribution from a SIP. That's
Unless they approve it.
Unless the districts approve that.
unless the district's prove it,
Yeah. Cause like with it,
so let me rephrase it. Money going to a school district gets offset by a state, it just offsets state
Yeah.
dollars. So you had to give it to the education foundation, that's where you're getting, the CRES is giving to the education foundation, and then it can be distributed. In Ione's case, it went to an education foundation, so it could be distributed. So that's how that's worked, but, I think most of us in the county have liked what has happened with the CRES. I know people have fought about the money, right? But there's been money distributed at several levels and several different ways that I really approve of, right? That, we've had development on the north end, there's been things that Boardman needed, but Irrigan and the three towns in the south end, having some of those dollars has been a big deal, right? It's been a big deal. It's moving water project in Lexington. It's done stuff in Hefner, it's done stuff in Ione, and certainly helping things in Irrigan and Boardman. So if I didn't think we were gonna flip everything away from an enterprise zone and end up with SIPs, I'd have a different view. I mean, a SIP for a wind project or solar or something in South Morrow County, I'm not very interested in, but the stuff that's happening, that we've been distributing those dollars around the county from big impact development in the north end of the county, that's the part and it makes sense in some ways if we could push some people into the SIP, because more dollars would end up in the county, right? But I don't know that it's necessarily sitting on the port perspective, I'm not so sure it's as good a outcome for the port than what the enterprise zone has been, so that's my concern is, and the flip side of all this is, on the other side of all this, the values vary from, when it all turns into tax dollars, the county, all these other dollars are not going to be the same at the end of the day. The data center is going to depreciate drastically. We were watching like Pacificor and others argue about what the price of power and what they should be paying in taxes. Counties are sitting on money. So we don't really know on the other side of this, what real amount of money from all this growth will really look like in just general taxes collected someday.
especially 15 years down the
Yes,
road.
especially 15 years down the road. And in the process of that, we built. I mean, it's great when you're doing money for an infrastructure project, but if we're building government on it, it concerns me on the other side of it, right? That's my concern is you get used to being fat and happy and then 30% goes away, right? So, and I worry that what we've done with the enterprise zone, a bunch of that has done constructive things. And I'm not saying the county isn't gonna do good things with the money, but it turns into a lot of money, so. That's my concern about it. If I thought the SIPs were only gonna happen for things that were outside, generally the port, I guess I'd have a different attitude than if they're gonna happen inside the port. So, and I don't have an answer for you, right? That's my concern.
With that concern, are you thinking that maybe shorter terms are smarter?
No, I think I think like you have to give, like I'll give you a wind project example. It's 11 to 12 years debt service to pay for one of them, right? So,
Well, not right now, it's not.
well, not right now. Well, yeah, the debt service on a renewable project is around 11 years to clear the debt after you take the tax credits for the federal tax credit. The financing, they will clear themselves in about 11 to 12 years. There'll be a debt-free project in 15 for sure, right? And that's why they love the SIP, right? Because that gives them certainty on the taxes that they don't know what the taxes are in year 15, but they can live with it because they're not in debt.
Right, and my experience with wind is they depreciate almost as fast or faster than an Amazon data center does.
It does unless they repower them, they do, right?
Well,
And
right.
And solar's gonna depreciate quicker.
But what we've learned though is from the Department of Revenue that they don't care what the cost of the asset value is. All they care about is the profitability of the company. I mean,
Right,
Department of Revenue's told us that they don't look at the
Right, they're,
value of each individual.
Right.
no, they're
assets
looking
in the
at,
county.
they're looking at power price and what they think profitability is.
Yeah.
Right, what the power sale is, right.
So.
And that's why
it doesn't
they're
matter what
fighting,
the value
that's
of
why
the
they're
asset
fighting,
is.
that's why these energy companies are fighting with the state too, right? You know? Gas company did the same thing to us, right? We all saw a drop in value,
Oh, yeah,
right?
huge.
Yeah,
Back in
Trans
2000.
Canada fought
Mhm.
that the values were too high based on what was flowing through the pipe. And then
And-
we all took a hit in the county.
And PPNL is in the middle of a big appeal statewide. with-
Right.
with the Department of Revenue.
Right, so that's my great concern. I think we've got to get to agreement on how we all go forward, make sure things get approved and get done. But that's the area that makes me uncomfortable when I think about it is just. When it came to the enterprise zone, I think a majority of people in the county are pretty happy the money got spread around and didn't
But
grow.
let me interject there.
Right,
That is built on nothing but precedent.
exactly, I
You could
understand.
take all that money, the 13, 14 million, and throw it on the table.
Yep.
And politically bloody each other for it every year.
Right, but people have done a good job of not blood.
We have.
Right.
Great.
I think it's been an awesome job, right?
I think I'm proud of everybody for doing that,
Right.
but that doesn't mean, I have heard rumblings in the
Oh,
past.
sure,
And not to change that. you
Right.
know?
Right.
So that doesn't mean it will continue. Oh, it depends on who gets elected to these boards,
It's true,
you know?
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, because, and the other thing like this is I didn't want to end up with a spoiler. Because if you have 8 people that need to approve, well, not 8, but you need 3 on, you get 2 people
Right.
on, well, because the commission has 3, to shut down any project they wanted.
Right.
And, so we, on the SIP, on the partnerships with, so, elections are elections.
Right.
I'd hate to see people start running on the fact that I'm gonna bring more pres money to my this or that. or-
Right, no, I agree,
Yeah.
I think the precedent's been good so far.
Oh, yeah, it's the same as when it started. Well, they added 1 bucket. They started with 4 and added.
Right.
The infrastructure.
Right,
So overall, I think we've done a heck of a good job.
I agree.
And I hope it stays that way.
And my fear is that we're going to be in a situation that would put the 2 programs against each other.
Right.
That's always been out there ever since there's been 2 programs.
I guess,
And you've already stated,
But
that you wanna do that, you wanna go SIP just because of the school fee. So you're already pitting them against each other, even say you don't want to, you've said that several times, Lisa.
and Mike, that could change in statute as well.
Mhm.
But we're the bodies that get to make decisions on what that agreement looks like with the customer. No matter which program they use,
And,
we can make them look identical if we want to.
and, we can also use that school fee that's specifically for enterprise zones, we can use that to our advantage as well, because remember, in an enterprise zone, the there is no taxable amount. It's completely exempt.
Right.
So we can give the $2.7 million to school, and we can collect an additional $2.7 million if we can get them to agree to it, if they
Absolutely.
really want that. So, I mean, you know, we can use that to our advantage. And I still strongly believe and strongly suggest that let the company come to us with what program they think serves them best, and then let's negotiate.
Well, they're in the driver's seat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should be steering them one way or the other.
I'd like to hear from Joel. He's not very good at speaking up. You raised your hand
And
though.
Rick too.
Okay, well, yeah, when do they make that decision whether to go SIP or CREZ? Seems like that's early on, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, if we wanted to, how would we guide them one way or the other? Before we,
I think the only thing we could really do is we could make one of them really difficult and then they would choose to go the other one.
Well, and I just have to assume that if it's somebody that's locating here at the port, they're already talking to port about it. The port's already suggesting some kind of exemption maybe, or maybe they're asking about it
But it's
way
a-
before the county ever even is aware anything's going on.
It's a partnership with that business too, though.
Mhm.
You know, you want
Right.
what program works for the business, but if one program has a significant benefit to us, we can certainly work to help negotiate that with the client. And say, this is why we would rather you use this program. $2.7 million is coming back that could go to our schools.
And that is where the incentive part of it comes in, especially if you're bidding or going against somebody from another county or out of state.
Yeah.
You wanna make your incentive the best you can offer. So I kind of see, I know where she's coming from on that.
Well,
How do you?
yeah, steering them, but you know, that's why I go back to when a company asks me, which is the best program, I'm like, you're gonna have to talk with Business Oregon. They are the experts in that regard. On which program is going to probably suit your type of business.
Well, they've got.
Morrow County assessor isn't, the Port of Morrow is not.
Sure, we would. Of course we would. Of course we would.
I mean,
We-
without,
we would-
without having to analyze their business structure and what they're doing, there is no way you could do that,
But
Lisa.
they already know which program is gonna work best for them when.
They
before
probably
they
do.
Even call us.
Well, if you throw out the added cost that somebody might wanna throw on there too,
Yeah.
you gotta think of that. These things are flexible down to the very end. They're not negotiated when they first come to you. They
No,
may
they're
go,
not.
okay, they may look at a past one and go, okay, that'll be this past SIP is gonna work better than this past CREZ, but there's no guarantee that those are gonna stay the same, because that's the purpose of, well, I don't know if it's the purpose, but.
Well, and
you
a
would have
company
the add-ons.
that's already, you know, located in the county or the state, it's a moot point, but if it's somebody that's new to Oregon.
They're gonna know all of that before they come and call us. I promise you they are. They're going to have 10 attorneys already working on the state programs to know.
agree.
What works.
That is
I
true,
think
but I
they
still
might
get
have
those
already
calls.
That's why they're coming here.
I still get those calls.
The basic tenets of which program they choose, they're gonna know. They really are, whether they're taxable at 40% right off the bat or not. But it's the negotiations, those can be, well, they're negotiable on both programs.
Yep.
And so I'm looking for a group where we don't fight one another. We don't look unattractive. We don't look like we want them to go to another county.
Right.
We are able to communicate the two organizations that must approve them. Every agreement that comes across now by law. So I would love to have a group that gets together and does discuss those, that can clear the way. I would be with the Port Commission numerous times, has reaffirmed that the representative to the body is responsible for that decision. And we backed them up numerous times. Now, yes, it's not the same as the county whose majority is there at the table. We don't have the majority at the table, or we wouldn't if there was only two. However, we would hope that they have, well, let me say this, if we knew something was coming to a SIP agreement and it could be discussed at the Port Commission prior to any discussion with the company on negotiations, we can talk about it. Once those discussions start, that representative cannot bring information back to the Port Commission. So you're right, there is that small chance. But I would hope that our representatives to the negotiating team, let's just call it that, I guess, would have the
Let
authority.
me throw one caveat in there. We had a in-county group wanted to talk about expanding the creds, okay? And I checked with the attorney. I said, we can have this in executive session. She says, if there's no chance that if they're not gonna move, if you're not in competition with somebody else, you cannot. That has to be done in open session. You see, if there's a business in Morrow County, this is what the CREZ attorney told me. You cannot hold it in executive, you hold that negotiation in open session. So,
Right, no.
It's been real quiet at the end.
Yeah, Rick, what do you think?
Well, I have a lot of opinions on how popular they are, but first of all, I think we're making this a hell of a lot more difficult than it used to be. I just don't see it needing to be this difficult. We can come to an agreement, have many years now, making this happen. I'm gonna do what's in the best interest of the port, just like the county commissioners are gonna do what's in the best interest of the county, okay? We are a port-wide district and have to make decisions that affect the entire county. We're capable of doing that and have done that. Two questions. Who's in charge of the SIP agreement?
The county?
And the port? Who's in charge of?
The port is not in charge of anything. The port just has to sign off. Nowhere in statute does it says the port is in charge of anything.
Well, we can argue that.
Multiple business Oregon's in charge to say.
Yeah.
They have to sign.
But who controls the SIP agreements and who controls the press agreements?
So,
Both boards. We can tailor a CREZ agreement just like a SIP agreement and have done that in the past. We've modified our agreements to emulate each other. So whatever is in the best interest of both organizations and you're negotiating with the company, listen, they're gonna pit a CREZ agreement against a SIP agreement because they're gonna try to get the best deal they can get. That's business. I mean, who's gonna say that that's a bad deal? We can tailor those agreements to both organizations.
well, the only reason the last SIP and CREZ emulated each other is because the applicant came to the SIP, to the county and said, we want that. Otherwise, they were different. And they said, we want to bring, and they actually added more to the SIP to bring it up to the CREZ, but they didn't have to.
And they're not very similar at all.
But you can make them, Mike, you can make them similar.
No, what I'm saying is, let me finish, Rick, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but the Amazon SIP agreement is a lot different financially than the enterprise zone agreements. Instead of $2 million per building, it's only an $800,000 additional fee. So there's a huge monetary difference between the SIP and the enterprise zone agreements with Amazon. A lot of the other components are the same, and there's that taxable amount and the community service fee, but the money the county gets is, when it's all built out, is going to be, excluding the portion of the taxable amounts, 25% of what they would have, or of the payment that would have been if it was a CREZ agreement.
But you could have negotiated that differently with them.
Okay, we could have negotiated the CREZ agreements with Amazon a lot better, and we didn't negotiate anything other than we accepted their offer every time.
But
Every time.
But the point is, there's room for negotiation.
There is, absolutely.
So
And I think we need to get on the subject about playing each thing against each other. I don't know that matters. The only thing that matters, we get a CREZ agreement, we're gonna negotiate a CREZ agreement, the CREZ board is, right? If we get an SIP agreement, we're gonna, application or whatever, proposal, we're gonna negotiate that. I don't think, if we receive that, we should be saying, let's throw this away and send us back an enterprise zone agreement or vice versa.
That's exactly what I was just saying. You can make them both look the same. So if you want to negotiate and just say, well, okay, we like this, but we want to add this, this, and this, which is coming from the CREZ agreement, you can do that. Can you not?
You can negotiate any.
There you go. That's my point. You can sit there and negotiate with these companies. I think this is, I just don't understand where the issue is here, why we're making this so difficult. We're partners.
Well,
Let's step up to the table, get into IGA and start moving forward. We got companies ready to do stuff.
okay, actually, that brings me to two things. Number one, for me, my biggest concern is for projects that don't qualify for CREZ zones. That's the ones that I'm concerned about. Secondly, what you just touched on there, we've got companies who are knocking on the door. Nobody's talked to us at the county plan. We're supposed to be driving that boat on SIP. We are supposed to know that, and we are being undermined. We are supposed to drive the ship on SIP negotiations, and I'm hearing that there are things that are happening and we don't know about it.
Back up a second, Gus, we're all partners here. Lamb Weston went and applied for an enterprise zone. We didn't, that would have been a much better project if they'd applied for a SIP for our citizens. Because we lost $2.7 million. So not necessarily do we get to drive where they go apply, but if we make our programs more similar, we take that off the table. And we talk to clients all the time, and we're not talking about which of those tax abatement programs they should apply for. We're talking about locating them in our county. So we're negotiating with them on a land deal to locate them where there's the utilities available to serve them. We're not sitting there talking about enterprise zones. It's not the first conversation. And the last deals that we had with the enterprise zone and the SIP, that extra $5 million community service fee is really important. And we need to remember that we are increasing the payments that they're making every time we do a deal with them. And we should be.
And bonding language too.
So I think.
I guess so that is the question. If a business goes to the business and then how does the county find out about a potential SIP agreement?
Well,
They come to
the company,
will apply to the county?
no, they don't apply. They'll contact the
They
county and
contact
say,
the
we
county.
made a application for SIP.
So the county.
And hopefully,
should know.
right, and like for wind projects, we kind of already know. Cause they're already talking to us. They're already getting local permits. They're already.
They're already in a state.
Yeah,
aspect.
and stuff.
And they're never gonna do anything but a SIP agreement with you
Right.
anyway. They don't have another ramp.
Right, and so, back in PGE, they had been talking, they've had enterprise zone agreements on the Coyote, or exemption on the Coyote Springs project here at the Ford. When they came to the county, to talk, about the Cardi project, and this was way on even before I was assessor. They'd already made up their mind to go, because at that time, there was enterprise zone boundary out there, or area out in there. But they decided to go with SIP because it fit them better.
What's the county commissioner's thoughts, each of you, if you don't mind me asking on this?
Start this.
No, you start. I've been talking a lot. Your thoughts are more interesting than mine.
No. You'd brought up earlier about, I think the discussions that, we have had in the meetings about, I don't have a problem with the port and having the framework is basically you laid out here from what I've perused, is having an SIP board and it basically mirrors an enterprise zone board. So anything that I think, as we've laid out before, that's on port industrial zone ground, or the port's bringing the client in, and I think this gets back to it. I understood you to say is that a wind project or something that's really outside of what the port is doing it's a county to negotiate that and do that. Yes, because of the legislation, we're gonna have to have the port sign off on it. But anything else, you know, from what I can see here, it goes laid out, port industrial, the port's bringing the developer in, providing services, whatever. Yeah, then we mirror the enterprise zone, but we call it a strategic investment port. That's,
So the county would stay out of the port industrial stuff, the port would negotiate all of that and.
no, because
Vice versa.
it would be, well, as you proposed here, it would be the strategic investment board, so it would mirror the makeup of the enterprise zone board.
Well, yeah, but you were saying that anything outside of the port industrial area, the county would make that decision.
Yeah,
That the port wouldn't have any say in that.
a renewable energy project, yeah, it'd be the county making
Right.
those negotiations.
Because it's not in the port industrial area.
Because the port's not bringing the developer in, the port's not doing anything. When the port enters into an agreement with some company, just rent to buy ground or to lease ground, you don't come to the county and ask us to sign off on that. So why are you asking us to allow you to sign off on a wind project in South County east of Heckner that the port doesn't have anything to do with?
But I would say the same thing in reverse. If the port goes out and recruits a business and brings them into and does all the work on it, then why would you have any say?
Because we are the
Because
largest.
statutory gives us that authority.
Because we are the largest.
As well as
ever.
us.
As converse, there's the rub, that's the rub, that's the rub, right?
Well,
Can I ask a quick
Didn't make any progress. I'm gonna get it changed legislatively. I was close. I'm gonna get it next time, so. That's the way it's gonna be.
I would disagree. I don't think that's gonna happen. So.
Alex has something to say.
I'm trying to understand a little bit the conversation to some extent because the legislation as it sits right now refers to an affected port, not necessarily the port district as a whole. It refers to a port district that owns land on which any part of the proposed project will be located in the legislation. So it's very specific to the land owned by that port district. And I'm curious how that affects the conversation a little bit.
Right, because that's what Justin alluded to,
Isn't-
right when he first started.
I thought it was an or.
Or, you said or,
He said.
Yeah.
port
Okay.
In the district.
or in
Let
the
me-
district.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think you said or, that's the rub, right? It said in the district, that would.
How do the port commissioners feel about what Jeff was commenting on? Because I think you said that, let me ask.
Yes,
Please. You said that if it is outside of port-owned industrial or developed ground and it's not somebody that the port brought in as a business, then you think the county should take the lead in all negotiations and then, but conversely, when we flipped it around to where it was, we brought them in, you said that the county would still have a say in negotiations.
Right.
Okay. So the county always has a say in negotiations, but the port does not. Is that what you're saying?
Because the only reason why you are now going to have a say in the negotiation on a wind project is because of the legislation.
That was very specifically targeted at us. And I don't give a damn about what anybody says about whether this was specifically targeted at us. It was, and it was planned out. There were people who lied about it. I'm getting worked up. There were people who lied about it. Sorry.
Who would that be?
Oh. We don't need to get to that point.
Yeah, it's because you can't prove it. It didn't happen. The Port of Morrow had nothing to do with those conversations, period.
Yeah, I guess I don't know where that idea came from. I was just as shocked to hear the legislation coming through as most everything. I had no idea that was happening. Much like the same with the governor appointing port commissioners. We didn't have a lot to say in that either.
So, where was I going to say? I'm sorry. Skip down.
Again, folks, remember we are partners.
Right.
We
Okay.
have to figure out what's best for us and what's best for the clients that are coming.
So I think that where I was gonna go with that is that, you guys are saying, why wouldn't the port, you wouldn't have any say? Well, through a SIP deal, I think it was laid out there that as it goes through the process, we have to have a public hearing on it. And if we were doing something that you really had a problem on, we would expect you to be there and question us on it.
And ultimately, we still have to vote and approve it. the way the rules are today, right? I mean, you guys negotiate something
Yep,
in
yep.
South Morrow County for whatever that's not port related.
Yep, and if,
And
And
if
if
we thought
we're-
you were crazy, we could still say no. and-
Yeah.
and blow the whole thing up.
Absolutely.
Which I'm concerned about, because I don't want that happening,
No,
right? You see, that's my
and I'll go
concern.
back to what I just said, is that if we were doing that, and we were having the public hearing on it. And if you thought that we were way out of line,
Right,
we would expect you to come to us and say, oh, we have a major problem with this.
right.
We would probably want to have that conversation with you, because knowing that you guys could veto, torpedo the whole thing when it
Right.
came to you.
Well, and I don't want to see that happen.
Well,
But
I mean,
but
that's
the way
my,
it is now, we wouldn't even get to that point. It wouldn't go to a public hearing if we had an issue with it. We can figure it out before it gets to that, but. Because we could sit down and talk about it and say, let's fix this. Let's figure out how to move forward.
And right now, the SIP is more beneficial to our citizens
By far,
until the state changes that law.
by far.
right.
So back to the definition.
Yeah.
ORS 285C, 600, section 1, sub A. Affected port means a port district located east of the westernmost dam on the Columbia River, so that defines what. Or a port district that owns land on which any part of the proposed eligible project will be located. So Alex is right, it's specifically to any land. I mean, that's how I interpret that. Justin and I talked about this when we met the other day, that it's, I guess we almost need some clarification on, so if it is an energy project in South County, even though it's within your district, it doesn't say. It talks about what port districts are affected by this statute, and then it says what land is affected by it. So I don't know that the port would need to even sign off on something that's South County.
So until there's.
But that's not the intent of
Yeah.
that statute.
What intent is one thing, but what it reads and how it's interpreted
It's
and,
different.
and, you know, so, and I'm not trying to, I'm just stating a fact here. I'm reading the statute.
And it can be interpreted more than one way, and until the courts get involved, that's not.
Yeah, or we get a AG opinion or
It's not
something.
gonna get decided today, is my point.
No,
And hopefully we never get to that point, that needing somebody to step in and intervene and make that decision. I think that's why we're here, trying to figure out how to come up with an IGA that works for both of us. The port doesn't care about the wind build.
Absolutely.
We just don't care about it, but we also think that we should be at the table. And if the law gives us that authority, we should use that authority. That's why.
And then do what, since you don't care about it?
Approve it or disapprove it, I guess. I don't know. Why would we give up something just like you don't want to give up something? It doesn't make sense.
I just see the port and the county have completely different roles. I recognize that the port is a countywide district, but I see the roles very differently. That's the
And the
difference.
port is the economic developer here.
And again, I think we're sitting here debating this because of the money. And we haven't talked about the
We haven't.
money.
And we should.
This is about being partners on negotiation. It is not about how the money from a project would be spent. And
It shouldn't be about.
if I'm wrong, tell me.
Well, the SIP's gonna flow the way. It's gonna flow to the county, right? I mean,
The SIP could flow, I mean, you can negotiate anything into that SIP agreement that you want to.
I suppose.
You could make another steam payment that has teeth in it. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever,
Right. I guess that's true.
or you can say it all goes to this partner because they have all these obligations.
But I think, and this is one of the things that bothered me when first saw this, is I just pictured, like she just said, the money, you know, we have a client with an application and they're sitting there and we're arguing about how the.
And we
money-
need to take their money
That,
first.
yeah, well, it needs to.
Even if we're gonna argue, we
It's
should
a,
take their.
yeah,
money.
And this-
it's a process and then
Right.
how the money's going to be divided, I think
Right.
should be covered. I just think that should. Because either way, you know, otherwise, every project becomes an argument.
Well, I don't think there should be an argument either.
I don't want it, because that puts a slow down. It shows them that we don't have our stuff together, you know, it just doesn't. I
What
don't,
would happen if?
And as far as who gets the money or how it's distributed, so there's already process, public process on how the county spends money. And why create another thing? You know, there already is a process in place.
But I don't think this conversation that I'm having has anything to do with them.
Right.
Period. Has nothing to do with them.
when will that conversation
I think-
happen?
I think after we iron out how we're gonna come together as a team,
But it would be part of the IGA or not?
it's not, doesn't have to be.
See, then it falls into the negotiations, just what I was just saying. Then the client or the applicant is waiting for us to argue and hash that out. It's
So-
not part of the IGA.
So if you were gonna do that, if you were wanting to think about the money, what are you thinking? I mean, I don't know. I read this 2 days ago, so I'm pretty fresh.
I actually tell you the truth, Jerry, I haven't thought about that as much as the nailing down a process to
Right,
clean this up and have
Right.
us ready to take it on.
right.
And have the money part of the
But you
money
think we-
distribution, part of the IGA.
Right,
That was, you know, so that we're ready to go.
okay,
And we're not
right.
haggling, because it's back and forth, back and forth. How long does it take? You guys meet once a month, we meet twice a month, you know, I mean, and here they are, they're sitting over here, hey, we wanna move forward, we got stuff to do.
I'm
You
with-
guys are going back and forth arguing about money.
Right.
Let's move to Gillum County, cause they meet every week
So
and they're begging for money.
You say we need to start meeting every week?
Well,
We do,
no, I
the
just-
port does too.
You know, that's a good point,
don't
you know,
disagree.
Could be the IGS.
we've all dealt with, on the enterprise zone side of, they want it and they want it now. They don't want it yesterday, or
Right,
they don't want it 2 weeks from now, or a month from now, or when we think we can get it on our agenda.
There's several things that we have to live by right now, at least I think we do, that the port and the county has to sign off on projects, even, and SIP projects, unless Department of Justice rules otherwise, and it's only confined to port property. So with that in mind, we need to be able to come, in my opinion, need to come together and make some decisions. Do I argue the point with Jeff's, you know, where he says if it's not port property or port industrial, or we don't provide services to that? For example, what if a SIP is applied for data centers on 3 Mile Canyon Farms, but we supply water to them?
You provide a service.
We provide a service to them, so we would have a say in it. Do we, again, but we have a say in all of them, but, you know, what would happen, let's transition to the money then. If it was on port industrial or port served areas, we would get a percentage of the money, a majority of the money, I guess. I don't know, whatever the percentage. But if it's not, then the majority, the 80, 20, 90, 10 goes to the county. I'm just pitching stuff out here. I'm not saying we allocate funds once they're gathered. I'm just saying where the money goes, you know, and put it in the IGA.
That's what I agree. I think that's just exactly what I was trying to make, but I made it better. Nail that down ahead of time, not the dollar amount on every deal,
right,
percentages.
okay.
I disagree with that because there may be a project where the port has to invest significant resources into. There may be a project that they don't. And
Yeah.
so I don't think, you know, I agree with Rick. On this, we don't need to, we can't do a blanket thing that's gonna one size fits all,
Oh,
because it's not gonna happen.
and we don't need to.
Right.
We don't need to.
Joel, my thought on this is, just to go back to that law. And interestingly enough, with laws that are thrown in, they may have some real flaws in their law, in the wording of the law. I'd like to see us view this differently, and rather than saying, oh yeah, the law is here, so now we've got to we've got to work together. I would want to work. How can we make, how does this work?
Agreed.
And I think the carte blanche law is not a good one. That's not a good way to go. I think we should loosen it up some. We should,
Well,
if we can
I
agree.
would argue you shouldn't loosen you should follow the law.
Well,
You shouldn't,
then it comes down to the option of changing getting the
we
law.
can't change the
Oh,
law.
well, there'll be another legislature.
That could be done later,
Yeah.
but right now, I think what John was saying is.
I think that
the law.
the way we can implement it can lessen that impact. So,
So if it's not about the money that the Port is interested in, and you want to be part of a negotiation on a wind project, what are the things that you want to be negotiating?
And
I'll
so
be honest
that
with
was
you,
the question that I had earlier.
I
That was my-
really don't want to be part of your negotiation with the wind project.
So then why
But-
are you having the problems what I proposed?
Because
I'm not sure that I do. anymore.
it's not, it's not, but it's not equitable. Okay, it's very one-sided what you're proposing, and I have an issue with that. And like, if we're gonna be partners, it shouldn't be so one-sided. Because a partnership is usually a partnership,
So
not one-sided partnership.
again, I want to know what it is that you would think that you would want to be negotiating if it's not negotiating the money.
So Rick, what do you mean by that? I need to.
$1 million to do a steam project.
Thoughts on
I mean-
what you're saying. But it needs to be.
That's money.
a Partnership.
Yeah, that's money.
Like-
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
You already are a
I might have done that.
What do you mean? Are you, the allocation of funds? Is it the decision-making process? What is
Well,
it?
but they made a very good point. Jeff made a very good point. If it's in the Port Industrial, then the Port of Morrow should be the one, and especially where we're the ones doing the work, should be the ones driving that conversation, not the county.
And is that what you intended?
No,
I
that's
don't
not what.
That's not
he
it.
did.
That's
I
not what
think,
you-
What he did for.
but Rick, I think the problem then is down at the end of the table, well, there he's back. If you're gonna do a SIP, he's gotta be in the middle of it because of how the process would work. I mean,
Absolutely.
ultimately,
just like I am
these,
with
these guys are maybe
same
in
thing.
negotiation, but the truth is it's really on him to get it.
Well, if you have a project now that comes to the port and they want to be in the CREZ, it's not just the port.
No, it goes to the
I mean,
CREZ,
it's-
right?
it's-
And I think what
it's,
Rick's saying is,
It's the
Board,
board.
right. That's what
right,
I'm
and I
saying,
think
but-
what Rick's is saying is that
With the SIP agreement. and
Aren't
it should
you-
Be the SIP.
what you're really saying, Rick, is that it may be that we only care about the stuff inside the port area.
That's probably where I am.
Right, but it should be uniform across the county. So
Absolutely.
then we come and say, oh yeah, well, we were fine with what they negotiated, this group negotiated, and we vote for it and we move on. You're saying you don't want a two-tier, you want an agreement across how it's the whole county. And we have participation, but we're not as interested in participating. Right? We're not really probably gonna have an opinion.
I can't see where we're gonna get all worked up over a wind farm that has nothing to do with the Port of Morrow.
And they've got a formulaic, they're gonna negotiate along and change it as times have changed, I suppose. To what the competitor counties are doing around them, kind of like, just like your enterprise zone has been, right? Right?
We're already looking at this.
Right, right. I assume you are. I mean,
We've done analysis
Check
on the
my,
difference between pilot and SIP
right,
on solars,
sure.
which is best, because a huge part of the solar is
Best for the
batteries.
client or best for the
Huh?
citizens?
That's for the county.
Okay,
He's talking about that's
I
for
wanna
the county.
just wanna make sure
bring
that,
another idea into this that I think is fundamentally true, and that is that the county government is the head government of the county.
I
The
don't.
Port of Morrow is very important to the county, and I'm all for the port. I support the port. But the port is not the main legislative, main body of the county. It's the county. So I think it's legitimate that the county is involved in everything. Whereas the Port of Morrow may not be involved in everything. I don't think it's an equal footing.
We get to someplace that.
Yeah, how do we get to
It's not that I disagree with any of you on.
Right,
this,
right. I mean, his
particularly,
point is that he wants uniformity across the whole thing. Your point, Gus, is that really if it's in South Morrow, it has nothing to do with port property. Why are we at the table? Right? That's your point, right?
Does anybody think we're coming close to a consensus that we might be able to turn this over to a working group? No, I mean.
No, yeah.
We're
I
10
think-
minutes away from fire. I
Right,
was just thinking, it'd be
right.
nice to get something to come out of here with to move forward.
I think the
We
county is
were
in
gonna be here till
consensus.
7.
What's that?
Like the county is in consensus. I'm not sure about the port. I don't know what your guys' consensus is.
That's easy, take ours. That's all.
Again, we haven't heard your comments about our red line.
And this was just the
document that we
first step.
sent.
I thought we'd be going back and forth on this document.
Yeah.
Not today, but I thought we'd be, that's what we'd be doing.
Well, we'll add it to the agenda to talk about, this. So again, this is the first time that Jeff and I have seen this. So, we'll have it on our March 18th meeting and we'll go through it.
And I take it this was earlier and this is later, is that what?
No, one was the county, the little one was the county's with behavior.
Right.
And the other one was, so I made red lines to that one.
Right.
And then this is our current enterprise zone agreement that I made red lines.
And you
to.
just
Yes.
adapted the enterprise zone.
It's not perfect.
Right.
It was,
Are you gonna say that the red line is the port's consensus then and what they want?
no, it's a draft. It's a draft.
Well, that's what I'm saying is,
And it's to have a conversation.
well, that's what we're doing. I mean, I'd like to see it come out of here with some idea how to start putting the nuts and bolts together. Because we have a conceptual idea, you know, still not working. Conceptual ideas after
So you, well, let's just run with your thought of, the separation of the two things. How would we accomplish that?
Given the law, how would we do that?
Yeah, how would we
put
accomplish
that-
that?
Yeah.
I mean, still, we're gonna have to sign off on something in South Morrow County.
At the end of it, it goes to a vote.
It goes to a vote, I understand that, but I'm just
That's the end
saying,
of the process.
the negotiation of a SIP on port property, different than SIP out in South Morrow County.
Yeah.
That's my question is, what is what is on the county side, what do you guys envision the difference of that being?
Hold on, so let Matt.
You're missing side,
I'm missing side.
the cities.
I thought that myself.
Cities can initiate a SIP. And that triggers both of these bodies to have to review and be parties in it.
Great.
So if we do.
Without an IGA.
agreement,
Without an IG.
yeah.
Well,
Which-
unless everybody makes an IGA with each other.
The IJ is optional here.
Well, not,
Right,
and IGA is just a
just a,
a thing to argue about.
But correct me if I'm wrong, a city can come in and say they wanna do a SIP agreement and all we have to do is either say yes or no. We don't have to get in and negotiate or.
Yeah, same way with this too.
Well, that's not what I'm proposing. I'm.
No, but
We have
yeah.
a team together for negotiating, but a city wouldn't have to do that. We would just have to come in and say, fine, go for it. Why wouldn't we?
But you gotta think about the client.
right.
Think about the client going to us for a project here and having to go back to the county and the county says, no, we've lost a client. Same thing with the windmill project. Went to the county and you negotiated the deal through the SIP and you came back to the port and the port said, no. Why would you want that? I mean, we
No, that's
need
what I
to
think
work,
the thing is about.
we need to work
Right,
together.
that, we've got to.
And why can't we get a governing document that allows us to work together? Just like we have been doing for the last 30 years on the enterprise zone.
I guess,
Well, that governing document doesn't have any teeth
Yeah.
and is,
It's an intergovernmental agreement between two bodies. That's what it does. It says we're gonna work together.
It's more than a crow's
I
house.
see there is a pretty common agreement to that the Port of Morrow and County have different interests at times. So, the Port of Morrow has no interest in some project. So how do we get that as part of the intergovernmental agreement? How do we incorporate
You know,
that?
as much as I hate the bubbles, maybe it's bubbles on a map.
I know, I hated that. I didn't want to use that term.
Right.
Anyway, I do think there's an agreement but we're disagreeing on how to get there.
Yeah, I don't know that we're that far apart on what
But
we would,
yeah,
what we would think people want to have a influence on.
I-
But how do we do it in an orderly fashion so we don't chase anybody off anywhere, right? I mean, that's the trick.
You
in
talking about
long-term-
influence zones again?
No, I don't like, I hate that term. I hate that.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, a couple people on one city council could blow
Right,
a
no, I,
multi-million dollar wind deal. out
yeah,
of the
that's right.
water.
I don't like that idea at all. I mean,
I think more of an area of influence of the port, but it wouldn't be actual bubbles on a map. It would be based on criteria of industrial or port serviced or, you know, some other additional, these are the things that in these scenarios, we use the strategic investment board. And if it does not match those, then we use the county.
that's the lead.
And,
Yeah, that would be,
as the lead.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
What do you think of that, Jeff?
yeah, and that's, I think that, and.
Yeah, I know, that was his.
And the
I just didn't know, make sure you didn't rephrase it.
And the language in there would say that the port would sign off on.
mhm.
Something negotiated by the county
Yeah.
outside of port property, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But outside in industrial or served by,
Mhm.
And we can,
Whatever the definition.
And on the flip side, if it's port industrial or port anything, then the Port of Morrow negotiates that contract. For that agreement with the county buyout.
no, because the strategic investment board was basically mirroring how the enterprise zone board worked.
Well,
That's what you proposed.
It has to go the other way too, Jeff, if we're saying what we're saying. I mean,
Yeah.
if we have area of influence, the port, or we bring the company in, and then the county brings the company in and the wind. I mean, they're kind of equal, aren't they?
I guess this for us is whether or not you view the port and the county on equal terms. And for me, I view the county as being a superseding body in this, and that's why we shouldn't be missed from the table. That's,
but I'm not saying you should be missed from the table.
Right.
We, as the economic developer, which you guys are not, should be making those decisions.
I think that the county, you know, if it's something you brought in. I don't know that the county would be really a whole lot opposed to what you're proposing, but I keep hearing from the port, you aren't interested in the wind project in South County.
I'm not.
The county is interested in the project that you're bringing in because it affects the whole county.
Well,
So that's the distinguishing difference from me.
so am I interested in the whole entire county? Well, probably. But am I willing to concede? Yes. And that's my concession is, it's not affecting the Port of Morrow. Fine. When we're recruiting or doing, does anybody argue that we are an economic developer in this room?
Nope.
Okay. Why wouldn't you let us do our job? And you
Economic
guys-
development, it
and
already
you guys-
happened.
And you guys come in and let us run the negotiations and be a partner with us in that aspect. Just like we would be a partner with yours. We wouldn't interfere with it. We wouldn't get in the way of it. That's what I'm trying to propose.
How about negotiation lead? Would that be an appropriate term?
For sure.
What was your term then? Just lead negotiator, depending on where the project.
where the SIP would affected area of it, because like a city would be the lead negotiator on a city negotiated SIP, right?
And again, the county and city isn't gonna participate in that.
That's right.
Unless we, for some reason, interject, but if the city of Aragon has a project that they're gonna do a SIP agreement, all they have to do is come to the county and the port and say, can we proceed in a SIP agreement? Once the county and the city, or the county and the port agree, they do their thing.
Just to jump in a little bit here, within the statute, there's a fair amount of language that specifies that the county has lead on a number of initiatives throughout the process. So there are certain requirements, because it is a statewide program relative to the enterprise zones, in which we rely on the county to take the lead on some of the key parts of this. And I want to kind of throw that out there, not to disenfranchise the ports or the cities in terms of their participation and vital part of bringing the offer to the table and talking about those points. There are requirements that are laid on the county specifically.
And you got yeah, okay, makes sense. So I feel like visibility is the answer. Somehow we've got to get to a plan where we have visibility on at the same time or in some equal way that we understand what's getting negotiated and maybe the Port Commission doesn't have a lot of interest in a wind project, but they're gonna have a lot of interest in a client that's trying to place something on port property or use port services, right? So how do we get to an agreement where we've had enough visibility? We also need visibility, so we end up saying yes on that whatever project that's not related to the port. And the county saying yes on something that is on port property, right? I mean, we need to figure out how we do this together. And I don't think we have to fight about it. I think we just need to come up with a framework to get that done. I don't, you know.
Do you agree with that, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're right there. I think a working group could take that and
then come up with,
and then bring it, and then.
and I think you have to accept you can have some sort of intergovernmental agreement
Mhm.
that sort of governs, because I look at, Mike needs the, you know, some of this stuff has got to go through him because we've got to know what what we think the taxes would be, what we, you know, what you legally can and can't, because there's things you legally can and can't do on a SIP, right? Same, you know, same with what you're doing, you know, so to me, that's what we need to get to, is something that gives everybody visibility, and both parties have some people that have seen the process, so when it comes to the board, they can say, just like you said, what was happening with the enterprise zone, you know, the port would need to say, we've got a couple people on this or whatever, and they need to be trusted so that we don't hang anybody out, but that we are a unified front with whoever's coming to the county. And yeah, I agree, we probably aren't gonna care much about some sort of project in South Morrow County, not on port property. But if we had visibility from beginning to end, we should be fine. And we should be able to say yes.
I would hope we would support.
I would hope we're supporting projects that make sense in the county, right? Economic development.
I agree with that. I think we're.
And I think you have to agree that you're gonna end up with some sort of intergovernmental agreement, or you're not.
No, definitely.
Right, cause then it's kind of like what you did with CREZ, right? You've got a precedent set and you've done it over and over again, and you're right, we could have changes in elections. But at the end of the day, it's hard for everybody to go back from what they've been doing over and over again.
Right.
Because there's hell to be paid for stepping out of line on some of this stuff.
Right, exactly. But the precedent only covers money, it doesn't cover the process.
Right,
So.
we're really talking about the process of
Yes.
getting the money captured and also
Yes.
the customer in the count.
Yeah, and I think that close. I like the visibility part. Joel?
Did you start to say something?
Well, heck, I'm ready to make a motion.
It's a working group.
We're a working group.
Yeah, working group. I think we're actually close. It's how you're gonna word it, how you're gonna consider who's taking the negotiating lead and parts. We may not come up with exactly perfect that meets everybody, but I think we're close.
Okay, what kind of working group you want? 2 from each group, 3? What do you want? Just group,
I don't know if we have.
you guys come up with 5, we
on the
get
port,
2.
we get.
Well, I think
Beat up on us?
I would really want to see what the port's consensus is for what you
Maybe.
specifically are going to want to be the markers. I think you guys need to have that decided amongst yourselves. If you guys can get that together, I think that would help us figure out where we need to go.
Okay, and then, yeah. But so then we'd also should work on this. This might be a good. Pat, we need the intergovernmental agreement to look at
That,
too.
that, the working group's gonna take it from
We're
here,
gonna take it from here.
because they should.
Well,
Yeah,
if
so
you
figure we
have-
have a consensus?
Right,
Yeah.
well, we have a, yeah, somewhat.
Okay, what's the word down from consensus that far? Because I think we're pretty close to consensus. So, I mean, you gotta move somewhere, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think 2 and 2, but of course, if you have that's a meeting when you guys get together.
I just.
Yeah, we
use that
can only have
public.
one.
Yeah,
You only have one.
Two.
We have consensus, so I would be comfortable with one of us.
should, we wanna include Matt?
Yeah, we'd have one staff and one,
Oh,
we
yeah.
want one staff and one elected. You guys want two staff and one elected, because we can only have one elected. So you know, you're.
Or two elected, two staff.
Yeah, I think that.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't matter on this
I
side.
don't know, we could have two. Yeah, two.
Two electeds, one staff,
I think so.
and we have one elected, one staff.
Yeah, well.
Because you're a work.
No, I'm not arguing about it. I
No,
just
no,
wanna
no,
bring
no,
it
no,
back to
I agree with
respective bodies.
Yeah.
Is there other knowledge we have to have? I mean,
For this,
we don't really have to, we don't have to talk, we're not really talking about the nuts and bolts of actually what a SIP would be,
No.
right? So that's not the discussion. The discussion is how do we facilitate getting it done
Yes.
working
consistently?
together.
Working together, having enough visibility that everybody can then later vote and be supportive of.
Yep.
And
The process.
of the process without blowing ourselves up and losing somebody out of the port or some project that goes somewhere else that we don't want to lose.
Is there any reason for a working group and not just this group meeting again?
Cause it took us 2 hours to get to this
It's
point.
2 hours to get to the point.
2 hours, it took us 2 weeks to schedule the freaking meeting.
Right.
And the fewer people you have involved, the point you just made, Dave, the easier it is to get a group together.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It'll be another month for all of us.
So you're gonna have your administrator and one of you from the commission.
I think you need to get that at a port.
And when
meeting.
we walk out of here,
I think we should
then
have
we
to
can,
wait.
those people,
I think we should.
and whoever you want,
Right.
can get together right away if they want, and schedule a meeting and get going on this thing.
Right.
Well, we have our
We probably.
port meeting.
Assign a committee.
Yeah, we have a port meeting next week, so we could put it on the agenda and just,
then
And the signs.
and then assign a couple people and.
So you don't think that there's consensus on the port side?
It doesn't sound like it.
What do you mean?
It's close, but what the specifics of what are the targets that the port would want in order, if we had multiple, if we had a county board and a strategic investment board, what are the things that the port would look for? And that I have not heard consensus on, and I think that would be
No,
helpful.
That was not, the consensus was, how are they going to present their wants to us? So we can move forward, then their group will get together and say, this is what we want, black and white.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
see.
Okay.
We could sit here with the details forever.
Like
Agenda for
clarity on
Wednesday.
the
Not
statute.
far, we're just a few days away from our meeting, so we
I
will
don't know
have.
if we'll get very far
The
with that,
Wednesday, okay.
but I will definitely do my best.
There's no precedent.
But I will look into this valley absolutely.
The counties, this is the county.
Kind of a big deal.
It is, actually.
Because it's gonna be a turkey.
It's the biggest issue on the table.
I know what the intent
You know,
of the
we-
language was. So,
But we can-
All right, is there anything else to come
Oregon
before
Public
the
Courts Association, we're doing this for.
commission tonight, port commission? Okay, we're going to adjourn the port commission meeting now, that's all right.
Okay, you guys go on, we'll get to hang out.
This is a really nice desk.
No, okay, all right, so we're gonna adjourn the county commission.
Thanks, everyone.